Lose the safety net. That is the message coming out from the D.C. watchdogs overseeing the TARP program. Now, in a new report, the panel says Treasury must eliminate the implicit guarantee of banks created by the bailouts. And Elizabeth Warren is chair of the Congressional TARP Oversight Committee, or panel, and she joins us now from Washington. Professor, great to have you back on the program with us.
Good to be here.
And, you heard from some of the bank CEOs yesterday that, yes, in fact, they do operate in some ways under the implied guarantee by the government.
Yeah, and that's a very expensive guarantee. Expensive in the sense, think of it this way, every small bank that's trying to attract capital, every intermediate-sized bank that's trying to get credit is competing with one of these handful of very large financial institutions who are trying to get that same capital. Only these guys aren't too big to fail. They are failing and will fail, but the guys at the top won't fail. And so what happens is you get real distortions in attracting capital and what you pay for capital, as well as distortions in what the business models look like going forward. These folks know that if they take on too much risk, they will fail.
Right.
These folks know that if they take on a lot of risk, they can promise their investors a whole lot more return. And shoot, if it comes out bad, the taxpayer will pick up the bill.
Then the government can come through. But then how can Washington avoid anything else to the contrary when these banks are too big to fail?
Well, what we talk about in the report is there really is a whole range of options. Now, let's be fair here. These are not options that are automatically available to Treasury. Many of them would require that Congress move in. And so this is about the bill that has just passed the House and the one that's pending in the Senate. But the range, think about the range of what you could do. If you have a too big to fail problem, you could say, okay, let's break them up. Don't let them be that big. Or let's tax them, make it more expensive so they're paying for that implicit guarantee. Or let's put some restrictions on what they can do. That's the basic principle behind Glass-Steagall,
right,
saying we've got to separate out certain kinds of activities. Let's regulate them more heavily. There are a lot of options.
Okay.
The second kind of option is to change the rules in bankruptcy or what's called resolution authority so that we can credibly say, hey, listen, I don't care how big you are, we have a system for liquidating you.
Oh, okay. Well, then, Professor, and you've had your tussles before with the Treasury Secretary Geithner.
Yes.
Is your view then, given this, that Geithner is not being aggressive enough in this?
Well, it's a little different than that. It's not that he's not being aggressive. It's that the kind of world that, frankly, the government created back when Henry Paulson was Secretary of the Treasury, and he came in and said, look, I want $700 billion, and ultimately I'm going to throw it into these financial institutions on such terrific terms. They didn't wipe out shareholders. They didn't make management lose any jobs. They didn't put any strings on the money. They didn't require any accounting for how the money was ultimately spent.
Right.
They not only gave a guarantee, they gave a guarantee on fabulous terms.
Okay.
And that's what makes it an attractive implicit guarantee going forward.
Elizabeth Warren, we'll have to leave it there, but thanks so much for joining us. She's the chair of the TARP Oversight Panel. We'll be back.